Welcome to Outside Views, and today we're diving into yet another chapter of the Brexit saga that continues to affect millions of travelers, specifically those flying from the UK to Europe. The new headline making waves is that passengers from Britain could be held on runways due to new Brexit border rules. It sounds like something out of a nightmare for anyone trying to make a trip across the channel. And this is a real concern as we edge closer to the launch of the EU's Entry-Exit System, or EES, which is set to roll out on November 10th this year. So what exactly is the EES and how is it tied to Brexit? Well, after Brexit, the UK officially became what is known as a third country in relation to the European Union. And that means British travellers no longer enjoy the freedom of movement they once did as part of the EU. Now, when Brits want to visit Europe, they are treated the same as travellers from countries like the United States or Australia, subject to stricter border controls. The EES is a system designed to record the movement of non-EU visitors to the Schengen area, which covers most EU nations, along with countries like Iceland, Norway, and Switzerland. And this system will be mandatory for British travellers, and it's expected to cause some serious headaches. Under the EES, every non-EU traveller entering the Schengen area will need to go through a series of checks. They'll have to scan their fingerprints, have their photo taken, and all this information will be stored in a database for up to 3 years. The goal of the EES is to strengthen security and better track who is coming in and out of Europe. But it's the potential disruption at airports that's making headlines. Airlines are warning that the introduction of this new system could leave passengers stuck on planes, waiting for overcrowded terminals to clear before they can even disembark. In particular, EasyJet CEO Johan Lundgren has been quite vocal about the possible fallout from the system. He warned that the worst-case scenario could involve passengers being held on planes after landing because there simply isn't enough space in the terminal buildings to process them. And let's face it, we've all seen the chaos that can ensue at airports, especially during busy holiday seasons. Now picture that chaos compounded by the introduction of a new biometric check for millions of British travellers. The potential for delays is enormous, and Lundgren has urged the EU to delay the launch of the EES until a proper system is in place to ensure smoother processing. One of the proposed solutions is a mobile app that would allow travellers to pre-register their details before their trip. But here's the kicker. The app is still in development. And that means, as it stands, the EES is set to roll out without a clear, efficient way for travellers to pre-register their biometric data. And this could lead to long queues, congested airports, and massive frustration for everyone involved. And it's not just air travel that's at risk. The EES will also apply at land and sea borders, meaning potential chaos at places like the port of Dover, the Eurotunnel terminal in Folkestone, and even St. Pancras railway station, where French border checks are conducted for Eurostar services. In fact, there's already concern that these border points could become choke points for UK travellers heading to Europe. And if you've ever experienced the gridlock at Dover during peak travel times, you can imagine how adding biometric checks into the mix could create even more delays. But this raises a bigger question. Why aren't more people talking about this? According to Neil Swanson, who was recently appointed UK and Ireland Managing Director for tour operator TUI, the general public isn't really aware of what's coming. In an interview, he mentioned that there could be some hiccups with the EES and urged the UK government to do more to inform holidaymakers of the changes. It's clear that the travel industry is worried about the impact the system could have, but it seems like there's been little to no preparation in making the public aware. Swanson and others in the industry have called for more communication and clarity from the government to ensure that travelers aren't blindsided by these new rules. And that's another point worth mentioning: the UK government's role in all of this. In August, the UK Department for Transport announced £10.5 million of funding to help ports and other border points adapt to new EES rules. But is that enough? Will it be sufficient to deal with the potential influx of travelers who now need to go through biometric checks? Only time will tell, but the lack of concrete information about how this will all work in practice is troubling. And one thing is certain: the travel industry is bracing for impact. During a recent virtual briefing hosted by APTA, the UK's largest travel trade association, there was a massive spike in attendance. In fact, 3 times the usual number of people tuned in to hear more about the EES. And this shows just how concerned the industry is about the upcoming changes. But here's the frustrating part. Despite all this attention, there still is no clear picture of how things will unfold. As Marc, the chief executive of APTA, pointed out, the travel industry hasn't been able to start detailed communication with customers yet because there hasn't been a firm date for when EES will actually commence. I talked about November 10th. And this uncertainty is leaving many travelers in the dark. So, what can we expect come November? Well, it's safe to say that there will definitely be delays. As with any new system, there are bound to be teething problems. And when you're dealing with something as complex as international border control, these problems could easily spiral into major disruptions. In the short term, we could see travelers facing longer queues, missed connections, and the overall stress of navigating an unfamiliar process. For airlines, this could mean logistical nightmares, with planes stuck on runways and flight schedules thrown into chaos. But let's not forget that this issue ties directly back to Brexit. The EES is just one of many examples of how Brexit has complicated life for British travelers. Before Brexit, UK citizens enjoyed the same border privileges as any other EU national. But now, as third country nationals, they face increased scrutiny and longer waits at the border. This is the new reality of post-Brexit travel, and the EES is a prime example of long-term consequences that many people didn't fully anticipate. And guess who was one of the leading forces behind the EES? There's no doubt that Brexit has reshaped the way the UK interacts with the rest of Europe. And for millions of British travellers, that means more hoops to jump through just to enjoy a weekend getaway or a summer holiday. As the travel industry continues to grapple with these changes, it's clear that the road ahead won't be smooth. But what do you think? Are you prepared, if you're from Britain, for these new Brexit border rules? Have you heard about the EES before? I talked about this on my channel. Or is this the first time you're learning about the potential disruptions it could cause? So please leave your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a conversation. And about the irony of the inventors of the EES, by the way. But one thing is for sure, Brexit impacts on travel is far from over, and it's something we'll all have to navigate in the years to come. So thanks for tuning in to Outside Views, and as always, stay informed, stay curious, and keep questioning the narratives around you. Until next time, and the next video is right here in the end screen.